Men, like nations, think they're eternal. What man in his 20s or 30s doesn't believe, at least subconsciously, that he will live forever? In the springtime of youth, an endless summer beckons. As you pass 70, it's harder to hide from reality. Nations also have seasons. Imagine a Roman of the 2nd century A.D. contemplating an empire that stretched from Britain to the Near East, thinking, this will endure forever. Forever was about 500 years, give or take. France was pivotal in the 17th and 18th centuries. Now the land of Charles Martel is on its way to becoming part of the Muslim Ummah. In the 19th century and early 20th centuries, the sun never set on the British Empire. Now Albion exists in a perpetual twilight. Its 96-year-old sovereign is a fitting symbol for a nation in terminal decline. In the 1980s, Japan seemed poised to buy the world. Business schools taught Japanese management techniques. Today, its birth rate is so low and its population aging so rapidly that an industry has sprung up to remove the remains of elderly Japanese who died alone. I was born in 1943, almost at the midpoint of the 20th century, the American century. America's prestige and influence were never greater. Thanks to the greatest generation, we won a world war, fought throughout most of Europe, Asia, and the Pacific. We reduced Germany to rubble and put a rising sun to bed. It set the stage for almost a half-century of unprecedented prosperity. We stopped the spread of communism in Europe and Asia and fought international terrorism. We rebuilt our enemies and lavished foreign aid to much of the world. We built skyscrapers and rockets to the moon. We conquered polio and now COVID. We explored the mysteries of the universe and the wonders of DNA, the blueprint of life. But where is the glory that once was Rome? America has moved from a relatively free economy to socialism, which has worked so well nowhere in the world. We've gone from a Republican government guided by a constitution to a regime of revolving elites. We have less freedom with each passing year. Like a signpost to the coming reign of terror, the cancel culture is everywhere. We've traded the American Revolution for the Cultural Revolution. The pathetic creature in the White House is an empty vessel filled by his handlers. At G7 Summit, Dr. Jill had to lead him like a child. In 1961, we were young and vigorous. Our leader was too. Now a feeble nation is technically led by the oldest man to ever serve in the presidency. We can't defend our borders, our history, including monuments to the past, or our streets. Our cities have become anarchist playgrounds. We are a nation of dependents, mendicants, misplaced charity. Homeless veterans camp in the streets while illegal aliens are put up in hotels. The President of the United States can't even quote the beginning of the Declaration of Independence, the thing, correctly. Ivy League graduates routinely fail history tests that fifth graders could pass a generation ago. Crime rates soar, and we blame the Second Amendment and slash police budgets. Our culture is certifiably insane. Men who think they're women, people who fight racism by seeking to convince members of one race they're inherently evil and that the others are perpetual victims. A psychiatrist lecturing at Yale said she fantasizes about unloading a revolver into the head of any white person. We slaughter the unborn in the name of freedom, while our birth rate dips lower year by year. Our national debt is so high that we can no longer pretend that we will repay it one day. It's a $30 trillion monument to our imprudence and refusal to confront reality. Our entertainment is sadistic and nihilistic and as enduring as a candy bar wrapper thrown in the trash. Our music is noise that spans the spectrum of annoying to repulsive. Patriotism is called insurrection, treason, celebrated and perversion sanctified. A man in blue gets less respect than a man in a dress. We're asking soldiers to fight for a nation our leaders no longer believe in. how meekly most of us submitted to Fauciism, the regime of face masks, lockdowns, and hand sanitizers, shows the impending death of the American spirit. How do nations slip from greatness to obscurity, fighting endless wars they can't or won't win, massive debt far beyond their ability to repay, refusing to guard their borders, allowing the nation to be inundated by an alien horde, surrendering control of their cities to mob rule, allowing indoctrination of the young, moving from a republican form of government to an oligarchy, losing national identity, indulging indolence, abandoning faith and family, the bulwarks of social order. In America, every one of these symptoms is pronounced, indicating an advanced stage of the disease. Even if the cause seems hopeless, do we not have an obligation to those who sacrificed so much to give us what we had? I'm surrounded by ghosts urging me on. The Union soldiers who held Cemetery Ridge and Gettysburg, the battered bastards of World War II at Bastogne, those who served in the cold hell of Korea, the guys who went to the jungles of Southeast Asia and came home to be reviled or neglected. This is the nation that took in my immigrant great-grandparents whose uniform my father and most of my uncles wore in the Second World War. I don't want to imagine a world without America, even though it becomes increasingly likely. During Britain's darkest hour, when its professional army was trapped at Dunkirk and a German invasion seemed imminent, Churchill reminded his countrymen, "Nations that go down fighting rise again, and those that surrender tamely are finished." The same might be said of causes. If we let America slip through our fingers, if we lose without a fight, what will posterity say of us? While the prognosis is far from good, only God knows if America's day in the sun is over.